Good morning, good morning, good morning, everyone. Welcome back. It's day 7. Today, we're going to be looking at root operations for group 4. There are 4 of them. The first one is transplantation, and transplantation is described as putting in or on all or a portion of a living body part taken from another individual or animal to physically take the place and or the function of all or a portion of a body part. Reattachment is putting back in or on all or a portion of a separated body part to its normal location or suitable location. Then we have transfer. Transfer, moving without taking out all or a portion of a body part to another location to take over the function of all or a portion of a body part. Last and certainly not least is reposition. And reposition is moving to its normal location or other suitable location, all or a portion of a body part. I want to remind you, if you are in the middle of preparing for the CCS exam, it's important that you understand and can apply the root operations so that on the day of the test, you can attack the test and it doesn't attack you. One strategy that I think is important is knowing the fact that the character values Y, M, X, S, for example, relate to the root operation. So if you're doing a multiple choice test and you're trying to figure out a strategy to get through those questions pretty quickly, one strategy I would offer is to eliminate an answer choice because the root operation is incorrect. Now, of course, you need to continue to practice, practice, practice. All right, let's jump into our first scenario. Our patient has end-stage renal disease and type 1 diabetes. He's been maintained on dialysis, and a cadaver donor pancreas and kidney have become available. So, the kidney is a left kidney with a single renal artery, vein, and ureter. Of course, the normal things happen. The patient is prepped and draped in the sterile fashion, and anesthesia is administered. An incision is made, and the peritoneal cavity was entered. The right common iliac, internal iliac, and external iliac arteries were dissected free. Then, attention was directed to the left iliac fossa. They brought the renal artery onto the table and they did an anastomosis between the renal vein and the left iliac artery, which was the internal one. After completion, the vascular claps were removed and the kidney pinked up nicely. Next, they worked on the pancreas. So, right iliac fossa brought the pancreatic allograft onto the operative field. Arterial and venous anastomosis were completed with successful implantation of the pancreas. And then they closed everything up. All right, so of course, you should know by now, the goal is to get to our code, and we start with the index with our root operation. And in this particular case, it's transplantation. So I'm going to start backwards. And while we're here, let's get 2 tables. So we have the kidney, and it was the left kidney. That's taking us to table 0TY. And then we have the pancreas, and that's taking us to 0FY. Notice they have a third character of Y for transplantation. All right. So this approach was open, no device. And the qualifier is a 0 for allogenic because it was the same species. It was a cadaver. So the first code, 0TY107 or Z0. Haven't had my caffeine this morning. All right. Then we're going to go to the table 0FY. And as you know, sometimes we know the table, so we can build it directly from the table. 0F, Y for transplantation. Here, this is why you have to build it from the table, because the table is where you can see everything that is pertaining to that table. So 0FY, G for pancreas, 0 for open, Z, no device, and 0 again because it was the same species. All right, I'm going to take this back to the top, and then I'm going to get over to the introduction, or not the introduction, I'm going to introduce, I should say, the next scenario. All right, so we have a patient who sustained a left hand injury and they undergo nerve surgery to prevent a residual claw hand injury. I want to remind you, when you are coding, it is important that you understand what you are coding. So if you don't know what a claw hand injury is, look it up. You should be learning faster than you are growing. The anterior interosseous to the ulnar nerve graft is accomplished via incision using an operative microscope. The interosseous and the ulnar nerve are brought together without dissection. Well, what did they do here? They did a transfer. Where was the transfer occurring? Interosseous, and then to the ulnar nerve. That ulnar nerve is actually going to be that qualifier. Take a look at those guidelines. Also, interosseous is the median nerve. How do I know? Research, research, research. All right, so what are we going to do? We are going to go to the code manual, and we're going to go to a root operation of transfer. I'm going to start with the U and work my way backwards. By now, day 7, you guys should be really, really feeling more comfortable, but you need to practice. So somebody asked me, what would I recommend in terms of, practicing PCS coding, practicing coding for the CCS exam? Hands down, one of my favorite references for new coders is AHIMA's clinical coding workout. Of note, I do not work for AHIMA. I will not profit anything from telling you that, but I wanted to just give you that information as a tool resource. All right, so transfer of what? It was a nerve. So I'm going to go to nerve. It was the median nerve. The interosseous is the median nerve. Google it. It's a thing. It takes us to table 01X. And 5 is for the median nerve. Now we need to know the approach. The approach was open. There was no device. And the qualifier is the ulnar nerve. So it was the interosseous to the ulnar. So final code 01X50Z4. Fun, fun, fun. All right, so we are going to go to our next scenario. And here we have closed reduction and percutaneous pinning of the right distal radius fracture and closed reduction of the right distal ulnar fracture. So the splint was removed. They probably had on one of those temporary splints. And the right upper extremity is where it was located. And they did a closed reduction after the patient, of course, was under anesthesia. So they say here, both fractures were found to reduce. Well, if you go back to the beginning, it's a right distal radius fracture and a right distal ulna fracture, those two bones that are in the lower arm. Given the fracture pattern, I thought it would be appropriate to pin the radius to increase stability. 2 K-wires were then placed percutaneously under fluoroscopic guidance across the fracture site in the radius. So a couple of things. Number one, we're not coding the fluoroscopic guidance. They just use that so that they can make sure everything is in position. And because one of the fractures had this pin, we're going to need a code for the radius and then a code for the ulna, different body parts, as well as one of them had the fixation. All right, so what do we do next? We pull up that code book, and the root operation, I'm sure you've guessed it, is reposition. I'm going to go backwards here. And while I'm looking for this, where are you guys checking in from today? What states are you checking in from today? I might feel like giving away a prize today. What states are you guys checking in from today? I saw many of you have been here live every day. Kudos to you. When you are serious about your future, you will put in the work. And again, you're learning faster than you are growing. That is my motto, learning faster than you are growing. So we have the radius, and I know I'm supposed to start at the beginning, but I don't want to run out of time. We have the radius, which is taking us to table 0PS, and it was the right side. And then we're going to go to the ulna, which is also taking us to table 0PS. So that's cool because we can build our code from the same table. One thing I do want you to pay close attention to is that in some instances, your table continues on the next page. And so you can see the 0PS table is pretty long. Okay. So for the radius, let's grab that first. So we know that radius was the H. So 0PSH. It was percutaneous, not percutaneous endoscopic, because there was a closed reduction. Look for little things like that. They can trick you like that on the test. All right, this patient had an internal fixation device put in, so that's a 4Z. So 0PSH34Z. On to the ulna. All right, so for the ulna, we are still in table 0PS. K for the right ulna. Now, this procedure was done externally. They didn't do any pinning to it. Remember, they said both fractures were found easy. And let me just pull it up so you can recall it. So both fractures were found to reduce. So they did a closed reduction on both fractures, but then on the radius, they had to do that pinning, which is how we got to this decision here. So I want you to notice something. I don't see external in this first table. Could there be more? Why, yes, there is. All right, so we're looking at the ulna here. The approach is external, no device, no qualifier. For the ulna, 0PSKXZZ. Fun, fun, fun. All right, back to the top, return to the introduction. And we're going to go on to I think this is our last scenario for today. All right, Mr. Doe severed his right hand at the carpals, and it was successfully reattached. You still got to read what they did. So the surgery took place. Of course, the patient was under general anesthesia. The surgeon meticulously prepared and cleaned the severed hand before dissecting and aligning the damaged hand and the wrist structures. And they did these microsurgical techniques, reattaching the hands to the carpals, ensuring that they were in alignment. Following the procedure, tourniquet was released. Vascular integrity was intact. No immediate complications. Post-operatively, the patient is going to be monitored, and then they're going to have some rehabilitation and therapy to get the use of that hand back in position. And this surgeon says, hey, doc, we want you to, or patient, I should say, we want you to follow up. All right, so the root operation here is going to be reattachment. Index, root operation, reattachment. And reattachment of what? It was the hand. And table 0xm. And I forgot which hand it was. Ha ha ha. It was the right hand. All right. So right hand and open is the approach. No device, no qualifier. So what is the final code? 0xm. It was the right hand, so that's a J. Open, no device, no qualifier. Wow, wow, wow. So what does this mean at this point? What does this mean? We're done. So tomorrow we're going to be into group number 5. And I told you that over the weekend, the scenarios would take us a little longer. So tomorrow morning, which is Saturday morning, we are going to jump into group 5. And by the end of day 12, we will have successfully gone through all 9 groups of root operations. Once again, I appreciate you for coming in and hanging out with me for 12 days of ICD-10-PCS coding. Everybody have a great rest of your day.